Okay, now, good morning.
Good morning.
Today we will go on with chapter number 4. Regarding chapter number 4, we are going to talk about something called how the relationship between the buyer and the seller is going to develop. This issue is a very important issue. With this relationship, we are going to conclude, after Rimash is going to make her presentation, we are going to conclude that the relationship between the buyer and the seller has a life cycle. Exactly like the project cycle, like the good cycle, like the service cycle. When we are saying life cycle, it means the relationship will begin in a very weak way. Later on, this relationship will be strengthened till it is going to reach its own peak. If it is going to reach its own peak, we are going to talk about the commitment. But by the end, this relationship will be dissolved. If it got dissolved, this means the relationship passed away. This is briefly the development of the relationship between the buyer and the seller. And now we would like to invite Rima to make her presentation.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Rima Shirafa. I study Faculty of Commerce, Accounting Department. I will discuss about stages in a buyer-seller relationship. First thing, how to build and enhance a professional relationship in all levels of the organization. And all of relations are dynamic but not linear in function. And we can call these stages multi-stage relationship. Okay, first one, awareness. Awareness, recognition that a supplier may be able to satisfy an important need. This stage, our recognition, okay, recognition that a supplier, the key word of this awareness of this stage, the recognition. First thing, this stage characterized that the supplier or that the customer should know or must know the certain supplier who will have the ability to satisfy his need or his customer need, and he will know that there is certain supplier who will give him a goods that will satisfy his needs. For example, if I want to buy a laptop, and I know that there is 3 suppliers in the market who have these laptops with some specification I want. This means that those suppliers, those 3 suppliers who have the ability to satisfy my need or my desire. Key selling objectives. The objectives means what the supplier want to achieve in these stages. First one, gain customer attention. Second one, demonstrate how the product service can satisfy a need. First one, gain customer attention. To attend the customer. Supplier should attend the customer by providing him his needs or his desire. His needs or desire by advertising or by advertising or by the way of the supply his product or services. Second one, demonstrate how the product service can satisfy a need. To explain to the customer how the laptop will work and how to treat with its specification and so on. Second one, exploration, a tentative initial trial with limited commitment by both parties. This trial period may go on for an extended period of time. Initial is the key word of this exploration of this stage. This stage characterized that the customer and supplier should know each other to complete the purchasing process. And precisely the customer should explore the supplier who will give him his need or her desire. And it will go on for extended period of time because the customer is difficult to trust of certain supplier. He will see it at the first time. And key selling objective, gain initial acceptance, build a successful relationship. Gain initial acceptance. Each of customer and supplier have initial acceptance that the customer accept to buy. Initial acceptance that he see the product and he will like this product, the laptop and its specification, and want to buy this laptop. Second one, build a successful relationship. And this will happen after collection of data and information, and seeing the potential product or services. and will build a new relationship between customer and supplier. Third one, expansion. Expanding the rewards for each party in the relationship. The keywords is reward. We should know what's the reward from this stage, what's the reward for customer and for supplier. For supplier, the reward is to sell his product and gain profit to maximize his wealth. And for customer, he will satisfy his need, he will satisfy and being happy from this relation. The objective of this stage, get to know customer and their businesses better. The customer or the supplier will know the customer, will know better than the last stage, because this being relation between them and being some kind of loyalty. And expand ways to help the customer to expand and create new ways to help the customer and open in front of him multiple things to think about his product. For first one, the commitment. The commitment by both. Commitment. The key word is commitment by both the buyer and seller to not the commitment. The commitment by both the buyer and seller to an exclusive relationship.
Well, Rima, we are talking about the peak of the relationship, which means the strong level or the strongest level of the relationship between the two partners. I mean the supplier or the seller and the buyer.
It considered the strongest stage because it will be the peak of the relationship, because each of customer and supplier commit to each other. For example, the customer commit to supplier to purchase from him the laptop, and not from another one, and the supplier commit to sell the product to the customer in certain price and certain time. The objective interaction at levels between the buyers and sellers organization. There is expanding in relation between the customer and supplier. For example, if I want to buy something related to the laptop I bought before, I will go to the same supplier and buy from them something related to the laptop. Second one, early supplier involvement in development. It means that the customer when we want to buy something else, he will take the supplier's opinion before making the purchasing process. For example, if I have an organization or company and I want to install a new software, I will go to the supplier and ask him to advise me to install or not, and to determine the best cost for software and which time to install it. Long-term focus to the relationship. The customer or the supplier, should focus on the long-term strategic relationship. And when we say strategic, because strategic, it means big size of consumption, big size of purchasing, so big size of revenue, and will become kind of loyalty to the customer. And the second and the last one, dissolution, total disengagement from the relationship. This may occur at any time, at any point in the relationship. And this stage we can call it the death stage.
Excellent.
The death stage.
Yes, we are going to talk about a relationship which will be cut finally, completely, between the seller and the buyer. For various reasons, we will discuss them later on. Go on, Rima.
And this death stage, and it considered at it may happen at any point of time. And it's considered a very dangerous stage, because we will cut the relation between customer and supplier, and it's very dangerous. And the supplier would focus or would fit this situation before anything to happen between supplier and customer. Look for warning signals.
Warning signals means signals that the relationship is about to die. Okay. And the second goal?
To look for working signal, to not lose the customer. He should focus, or he should notice from the beginning the warning signals that will cut the relation between customer and supplier. And for example, if there is conflict between the supplier and customer, he will show this situation and build it from the new one from the first. Second one, attempt to reinstate the relationship. This means to renew the relationship from the first time. So thank you. There is any comment?
We would like to add something else to what Rima said. This something is going to help you to organize your ideas about the development or the developmental stages of this relationship. Now, look at here. Let's add something simple. Let's talk about the direction of the relationship. The relationship, look, this is the direction. It begins like this. Then it begins like this. Then it begins like this. Now listen, this is the biggest now. The biggest relationship. Then it will go down and die. Later on, it became like this. Later on, we do not have bullets. This means it is finished. It is done. So if you are going to look about the awareness, it begins from one word, which is know. I know something about the product. So if you know, this means we are going to acquire something called awareness. Later on, after this awareness, if I like it, I will explore it. Yes? If I didn't like it, I'm not going to go on or proceed with the relationship. Later on, I am going to expand it. I would like to expand my knowledge about it. Fourthly, I will be loyal or committed. Or by the end, I might be oversatisfied. If I'm oversatisfied, I'm going to look for something new. Because of this, the relationship will be deteriorated. So this is the simple 5 stages of the relationship between the buyer and the seller. If you are going to think of any good or service, even in your personal consumed life or style life, you are going to find this technique or these stages. They are applicable. They are applicable in the same way. Any question, any comments about this? Okay, thanks, Rima. Now let's begin with the second thing. With the second thing, we are going to talk about something called business expansion or business development plan. In the business expansion, all the time remember, the managers or the senior management, they are going to ask themselves something called evaluation equations. These equations, the answers for these equations will help them or will enable them to extend or expand or develop their sales organization. Some of the questions, we call them existing use. Existing use means we are trying to evaluate the present situation. The present situation. What we have and how we are performing right now or currently. So these are some of the 4 questions through which we can evaluate our current or present performance as a sales agency. According to this present situation, we are going to determine some of the possible needs. When we are saying needs, this means we are talking about read. Exactly, problems. What are our possible problems, challenges, difficulties, which we are suffering from right now? How? By asking many questions, some of them or some sample of the questions regarding this stage like this. Later on, according to these challenges or problems or difficulties, we are going to look for solutions. Solutions of how to improve our own performance or our sales agencies or sales companies. After we are going to determine these solutions, we are going to talk about possible new uses. So here we were talking about existing use, and now we are talking about a new use, which refers to future performance. Future performance. By the end, we are going to talk about decision. Decision for what? For implementing what we have studied and evaluated and recommendations which we are about to take or implement. Because of this, we are taking her about decision criteria. So these are sample of how businesses or sales organizations, they are trying to expand their work, or they are trying to develop their own goods and services, or their activities, or their businesses. These are examples. Just skim and read them. Skim and read. Now, let's go now to something else. We have a theory for a theorist in management. His name is Thomas. Thomas, he's trying to provide us with a diagram or with a conceptual framework. This conceptual framework, it tries to provide us with 5 approaches of how we can classify the conflict issues. The conflict all the time, remember, it is a critical word. If it is going to swipe any business organization, this business organization will be destroyed, or it will commit a suicide. So this Mr. Thomas, he's providing us with 5 approaches about how can we analyze the tasks which we are doing or implementing in our work. This person is saying any task, well, let's symbolize it by X. Any task which we are going to do in our daily professional life, it can be evaluated according to 2 dimensions. One of them is called assertiveness. The second one is called cooperation. What's the meaning of assertiveness? Assertiveness. What's the meaning of it? Hareen? Exactly. To be affirmative. To be affirmative without any hesitation. Or to be over serious. Or cooperation, you know the meaning. Now, when we are talking about assertiveness and cooperation, remember, we are launching here from the 0 point. Later on, it might be 5, 10, 15, and so on. With the same thing here. 5, 10, 15, and so on. Thomas is saying, if the task is going to be included here, this is the symbol of the task. This means this task might be evaluated according to these 2 dimensions. It means the task here is classified to have a low level of assertiveness and a low level of cooperation. Then this task can be avoided. Avoidance. It can be avoided. It can be marginalized. It can be left for later stages. Why? Because it has a very low level of assertiveness along with a low level of cooperation. This cooperation is exerted by the working team members inside the company. The opposite situation for this task is the task can be had. Well, if the task is going to be listed over there, this means we are talking about a task which is having 2 characteristics. Number 1, it has a very high level of assertiveness or a very high level of cooperation. This high level of cooperation or this high level of assertiveness, sometimes it might lead to a confrontation. This confrontation is considered to be the strongest expression of the word conflict. Somebody might say, but if there is a high level of cooperation, this means confrontation can be overcome. Not always. The stronger level of cooperation might lead to a stronger intensity of interaction. Well, this interaction might breed stress and pressure. Well, the stress and the pressure might be the flame of confrontation. Okay? Later on, if the situation is going to be listed here, also the final result is going to be confrontation, according to Thomas. Thomas is saying, if the task is having a high level of assertiveness, along with a low level of cooperation, also the result is going to be confrontation. So according to Thomas, we can conclude this simple conclusion, which is, any task which is having a high level of assertiveness, the outcome is going to be excellent fitting, confrontation. If it has a high level of assertiveness. Later on, Thomas is saying, sometimes the task can be accommodated. What's the meaning of accommodated? Exactly, contained. So because of this, if the task is going to be here, this means the task is having a very high level of cooperation, but a very low level of assertiveness. So if its assertiveness is low or down, this means we are going to be away from confrontation. Well, the final result is going to be that the task can be accommodated or contained by the management of the business organization. Thomas is saying the final and the idealistic situation for accomplishing any task is the compromise. Compromise means settlement. Settlement means تسوية. We can resolve any task, we can implement and execute it if it is having a humble level of assertiveness, or if it is having a humble level of cooperation. If everything is having a medium level of assertiveness along with a medium level of cooperation, this means the task can be compromised. Everybody can be welcomed and participate and involved in finalizing this task in a very satisfying way, in a very fruitful way. Are we going to talk about confrontation? Are we going to talk about its risk? No. So Thomas is urging us, he is advising us all the time, classify your tasks according to this middle area, in which we are going to have a medium level of assertiveness along with a medium level of cooperation. But remember, do your best to be away from assertiveness, because assertiveness is considered to be the critical factor for creating confrontation. To be over assertive, this means to create stronger probability of stress and pressure. Or both of them, they are the flames of confrontation. Any question, any comments about this? Any question, any comments? Now, let's go to another thing. This thing is reminding us with the final stage. Final stage of what? The developmental or the stages of the relationship between the buyer and the seller. Look at her. Before a while, we draw the direction of the relationship, and we said the relationship between the buyer and the seller, and later on we do not have anything. This means the death of the relationship. Now we would like to ask why we are going to have this result. The result of killing the relationship between the seller and buyer. 5 major reasons. Number one, or reason number one, somebody is going to say we are missing information. In other words, the sales business or the sales agency, they might not have updating their information or data about the actual needs of the customer. So if they are missing this information, this means they cannot serve them. If they cannot serve them, this is going to be one of the factors which will weaken the relationship. Number two, uncertainty about information. In other words, our sales agency, it is guessing what are the required demands or needs or wants of our own customers or accounts. So if they are guessing, this means their information is not certain, not affirmative. So here we are going to work and sell our products or offer our products according to the trial and error issue. Trial and error. طريقة محاولة والخطأ. Is this a good work for leading a business? Of course not. The third factor which might contribute to weakening this relationship is uncontacted buying influence. Well, let's stop here. Well, let's talk about the buying influence. We talked about them last time. We would like somebody to remind us with them. ولا?
First type is economic
buying Excellent.
Influence. The second type is using buying influence.
User buying influence.
And third,
technical buying influence. And the fourth one?
Advocate.
Excellent. Advocate buying influence. If your sales agency isn't going to contact persons who are going to have economic buying influence or user buying influence or persons who are having technical buying influence or advocates, this means we are not going to have a relationship with what? With our account or customer. So is this going to contribute in weakening the relationship with the buyer? Of course. Number 4, customer personnel new to the job. Well, this is something very essential. If we are going to hire a man, for example, and Fatin, to be our customer personnel, both of them, they do not have enough experience. This means they are going to require what? More time to understand our target group and our target customers. Who are they? How they are thinking? How can we approach them? Is this going to contribute in weakening the relationship? Yes. The final reason is reorganization. A man, for example, she worked with us for about 10 or 7 years. Me as a senior manager, I decided to promote her. Then I am going to tell her, we are going to provide you with a new job. We will substitute her. The new substitute, the new sales manager, isn't going to have the same experience of a man. So this new manager is going to need what?
Training.
More time, more training, more knowledge to gain the same experience which a man got throughout the last 10 years. Is this going to weaken the relationship?
Yes.
With the buyer? Of course. So these are briefly the 5 reasons behind the weak relationship which might pass away between the seller and the buyer. Any question, any comments? Final question before we are going to conclude this part. Do you think any sales agency or business agency, can they overcome all these obstacles or difficulties?
No.
Not always. Why? For example, take this reason. Do you think organizations are going to be in the same organization as it is, in the same hierarchy as it is?
No.
Of course not. Sooner or later, the organization is going to reorganize itself. Is there an alternative for this? We do not. Look at this reason. Customer personnel new to the job. Don't you think you are going to need a new personnel, a new employees? Of course. So, can we avoid this thing? We cannot. Because of this, we said this is the fate of the relationship between the customer and the buyer. It will begin in a very limited way. Later on, it is going to be the strongest. Later on, we are going to have the commitment. But by the end, it will pass away or die. Okay? But let's go. Any question about this? Any question? Now, let's go about this case study. Who prepared it? At home. Who prepared it? Nobody? Fine. 2 minutes. Well, after that, I'm going to ask somebody to summarize this case study for us. It talks about what? Go on, read. 2 minutes. What is it? So it talks about what? What is the story? Okay, give us a full story about what is going on. What happened? What happened? This is giving me an impression that you are not preparing at home. Or this is pushing me to change my technique. Also, this is motivating me to give you an assignment now. Let's begin. This is a reasonable salesperson. With this case study, it talks about an account. This account is Fort Camp Construction Company. The Fort Camp Construction Company, it has a business. While they were executing this business, suddenly, some of their equipments got out of order. Because these equipments got out of order, they are not now able to finalize the due work and the due deadline. So they began screaming. Or they contacted another business company led by a salesperson whose name is Rogers. Roger is working in another company which is called Acom Supply. They asked or they urged Rogers to provide them with an alternative for health equipment. Well, they told him, we are working under pressure of time. We hope you are going to help us to finalize our work according to our signed contract as soon as possible. Roger, who is working in the Acom Supply, said, That's fine. I'm going to help and assist you as much as I can. Therefore, I'm going to ship the required alternative healthy equipment to you. Well, the shipping is going to be on the account of my business company. The shipment is going to be on the account of my sales agency, which is Account Supply. This, by the end, led to something very important. And instead of achieving a marginality of a profit of about 20%, they achieved what?
10%.
Only 10%. Who got agitated? The supervisor of Rogers. He began complaining and asking him. We asked him this question. Well, I would like somebody to read this text, or later on we will comment on it. Go on. Who would like to read it? When? Go on, Iman.
When asked by his sales manager why the sale should be made at such low profit margin.
Because they lost 10%.
Yes.
What they got? Only they got another 10%. But the original margin of profitability, which the supervisor was looking for, was 20%. Go on, Iman. What did he say? Or how did he respond?
Rogers explained, I felt I needed to be reasonable.
This is a quote. This means these are the words and the sentences which are used by Rogers. Okay, go on.
I wanted their business in the future. I was there when they needed help. The deal was struck quickly and they had remembered.
They would
remember and thank me later with the
later.
with the new business. I think the concession were justified.
طيب, the first question for you is the following. Do you think the response of Roger or the behavior of Roger in this sales situation justified? Yes, no, and why? Is the behavior of Roger in handling this sales situation justified? Yes, no, why? Go on.
I think it's convenient to the.
So it is justified?
Yeah,
Why?
it's justified because they will get the benefit from it by the sustainable relationship with this customer for them.
Okay, who agrees with it? You agree? Who do not agree?
I think he's a salesperson. He dealt with the situation, and
In a very intelligent way, in a very good way, in a professional way. So you are supporting his decision?
he lose now, but in the future he will
Benefit more.
No, he didn't lose. He only won 10%. But did he lose? No.
His supervisor think that he.
So his behavior is justified or logical. If you were in his situation, you should do the same. Now the second question, which is an assignment, you must provide it with me next time in a very printed way along with your name. What is the type? What is the type? What is the type of the sales relationship which Rogers adopted? Or give reasons from the case study to support your answer. Support your answer. So once again, let's summarize our assignment. What is the type of the sales relationship which Rogers adopted in this situation? You are going to tell me this is the type of the sales relationship. Well, this is reminding us with what we studied in chapter number 1 or 2. Also, we talked about 2. But here, we would like to give reasons. We would like to give indications for why this, or from the case study, that supporting your answer. This incidence or this behavior or this attitude which was taken by Roger is apart from X sales relationship. Any question about the assignment? Any question about the assignment? Thank you very much. See you next time.